Goodness all.
Sure. Hey folks, it's a new Massachusetts Pirate News. Welcome aboard. I'm joined today by Joe, Malt, and Steve, our usual crew. Just so you know, we're always looking for new people to help us in producing this, as well as commenting. So please, if you're interested, send us an email at info@masspirates.org. You can always find us at masspirates.org. And additionally, an event we have coming up that at least Malt, I, and other folks in the Worcester area will be at on January 12th at noon. We're going to meet right by the DCU Center at the corner of Major Taylor Boulevard and Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard to go out and map surveillance cameras. We've done that before in Boston, in other parts of the state, including Worcester, and we want to continue the effort there. So please come out and join us. I'll put there's a link in the description, and I'll put the link in the chat so you can see that. And then in addition to that, just so you know, there's ample parking across the street. It's on 3 bus lines. You can find out all that information in the description. So Malt and I are looking forward to seeing you all there. So what other news do we have?
Well, there is that bit about the Bitcoin going on in Sweden. Steve, I know you had the 4-on-1 on that.
Well, there's, it seems like there's always a bit of going on about Bitcoin these days. This was a little piece I picked up during the week. It turns out that Sweden, their Ministry of Finance, and I think their Ministry of Energy, it could be Ministry of Finance and one other one. They basically asked the EU to prohibit Bitcoin mining. It turns Sweden, as I understand, has some pretty good sources of hydropower, cheap electricity, which is useful for doing things like running data center or crypto mining rigs. And I guess the folks in Sweden have decided that they would rather, during the winter, they would rather use electricity for other things rather than mining Bitcoin. Now, one of the things that I was reading this, I got a little curious into how much electricity does it take to mine Bitcoins? And according to CNET, on average, it's about 1.5 megawatts per Bitcoin, which, the way Bitcoin works, this will only get harder over time because, as you find them, there are fewer left to find and there's more computation necessary. So, well, it's 1.5 megawatts, and I think last year, the amount of electricity used for Bitcoin mining was somewhat greater than the amount of electricity used by Argentina. So it's
Jesus Christ.
lots of juice. I do sort of wonder if someone will, end up, buying old nuclear reactors to resurface them and mine, your own private power source. But, that's that. I guess that is what's new in the world of cryptocurrency, where on one hand, if you don't like any of the ones that are out there, you can just wait a while and another one will show up. Back to you.
Well, with that being said, it's such a volatile market from what I understand. Like, Bitcoins, you could lose your shirt on it.
Yep. The price has been known to rise and fall 50% for really no reason whatsoever.
It's fickle.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that there's a lot, because of the new surgence and a new variant out in Africa, where Biden shut down traffic. A lot of EU countries shut down traffic to Africa, and the stock market took a tank. Yeah, the stock market took a tank because of it, and Bitcoin, of course, took a huge tank, from what I understood.
Well, I think Bitcoin fell before then. I mean, it hit like 67,000 and it had already fallen down to like the high 50,000s. I think that had happened before, but I don't know. It's up now. Who knows?
But that
Do not
being
take
said,
anything that we are saying as advice for how to invest your money. Run
oh
away
yes,
from anything we say.
If it breaks,
Hashtag
you get
not
to keep both
financial
pieces.
advice.
but yes, 100%. We're not financial advisors, but just understanding some of the technology behind it and what it takes. Not exactly the best of markets. So that being said, in things, I guess there's some news from the QAnon side of things.
Yes.
Oh boy. Let's hear it, Malt.
So, I'm going to assume that nobody remembers who Michael Flynn is. For those of you who have maybe suppressed the Trump administration's memory, he was one of the first U.S. national security advisors under Trump. He lasted a grand total of 22 days, which is the shortest tenure in the history of that individual profession. So good on you, buddy. Um, Before that, he's actually like a fairly well-regarded,
It's a general or something.
like a lieutenant general
Oh, okay,
who
yeah, yeah.
was
Military
really
leader.
involved in anti-terrorism efforts. The reason he lost his shit was because he was paid by Russia to give a speech in the building of the Secret Intelligence Unit, GRU, like
Mhm.
the first non-Russian to ever enter the building, apparently, and like live to talk about it. He was paid several tens of thousands of dollars to give a different speech, did not disclose that, lied to the vice president about it, was convicted, and Trump issued him a pardon. Last year, July 4th, he pledged an oath to the QAnon conspiracy theory and has been basically been like an influencer within the QAnon sphere. He's got one of the biggest Telegram channels. He's solicited donations. He's been going around to different super spreader events, talking about how the election's a lie. Trump is secretly the president. Blah blah blah. So he has been having a spat with another influencer in the QAnon community, Lynn Woods, who was a former lawyer for
Lawyer.
Trump. Yeah, he was very influential in getting the Dominion conspiracy theory started. So they've been kind of doing like some mean girl cat fighting at each other in their respective Telegram channels. So Lynn Wood recently released a telephone call between him and Michael Flynn, where Michael Flynn says, I find it, meaning QAnon, total nonsense, and I think it's a disinformation campaign created by the left, specifically the CIA, which apparently the CIA is a leftist organization now.
Wow.
That boy, that would have surprised the Iranians back in when they
And the
overthrew
Cubans.
Mossadegh.
I mean, I think it would surprise a lot of people still to this day. But yeah, so basically the QAnon scene is now up in arms about calling him basically like a Judas. He's hemorrhaging followers,
Oh,
but the
dear.
ones that are loyal are giving him more money than ever.
Who is it? What was that famous saying of P.T. Barnum's?
Pass the popcorn.
No, there's a sucker born every minute.
I'm not your dad, kid. Anyway,
Yeah, if sometimes are there still like a sect of the QAnon folks who are down in Texas waiting for JFK to rise from the dead and meet with his
Yes.
father and who's going to reassume the presidency?
Yes. Oh my God. So for like a month now, there have been over 100 people hanging out in Dallas. Like they will stand in circles. They will like march. They're holding candlelit vigils. At one point, they were all standing in a line at a bridge to speak to a man who had a bird on his shoulder that was pointing at a specific building and claiming that it was a pyramid full of pedophiles. It's absolutely
Was it a
going to get
parrot?
cockatiel,
Oh, okay, fine.
which is even worse.
No pirate affiliation there.
No, cockatiels are just loud and annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there a new Canadian like QAnon person too that's kind of risen?
Yes, there's one sovereign citizen out
Self-formed.
in Canada who calls herself the Queen of Canada, and she has been compelling her followers to go like do mass killing events at vaccine sites, and apparently they're listening to her. And like,
Are they
Yeah, they
arrested?
backpedaled.
I mean, that sounds like a reason to arrest her, right?
Oh, I think they
hopefully,
backpedaled and put arrest instead of kill, um, as kind of a thing to like kind of cover it up. But it was recorded because it's the internet.
so
I
like,
sort of. Oh, go ahead,
sorry.
Malt.
No, I've been talking a lot. Go ahead,
No,
Steve.
I was gonna say I miss the days where crazy people just talked about like Elvis. They thought that Elvis was still alive, and all the planes going down in the Bermuda Triangle were for Elvis, and the boats going down in the Bermuda Triangle were for Elvis. Because Elvis needs boats. Elvis needs boats. Elvis needs boats. Little nod to Mojo Nixon. If after you're done with this, you could stay on YouTube, but just look up Mojo Nixon and Elvis is everywhere. It's a hoot.
He and Bat Boy are QAnon. They take
Yeah.
turns. It's Bat Boy, QAnon, the kid that was supposed to be in the balloon. I have theories about that.
Bat Boy?
Not the balloon boy. Anyway, I'm getting
Who
off
is Bat
topic.
Boy?
You don't know who Bat Boy is?
No, I'm not familiar.
Probably lucky.
I was going to say Robin, but
Right
clearly
news.
that's the wrong answer.
Anyway, so yeah, the conspiratorial right is eating itself, and yeah, if you have any family members who have fallen into this rabbit hole, if there's anything you can do to pull them out, like it's getting scary.
So one thing we didn't talk about before we started this as a topic I want us to come to, and that is the Supreme Court made a ruling. A gentleman who shares my name sued Massachusetts to say that he could, or he and his group of people who record things could record public officials without their consent. And the Supreme Court opted not to take up that case, letting the lower court ruling saying that you cannot banning secret recording of government officials in Massachusetts, because Massachusetts is a two-party consent state. Although if you're in public, well, you're in public.
Mm-hmm.
That still stands. You can still record the cops in public. But anyways, just wanted to bring that up since that is something that affects our fair state.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, the ruling is that you can't record people behind doors.
Well, that there's no public exception to. So Massachusetts two-party consent law. If you're going to record someone, they have to know you're recording them, unless it's in public. But public officials, and by public I mean like out on the streets. Whereas if a public official is speaking at some place, then you can't go and record them. And certainly if it's a private circumstance, you can't record them unless you're telling them you're recording them. You can't surreptitiously record them. You can't secretly record them.
Man, I hate that.
Well, I mean, you can go to a public event and you can say, I'm going to record you now.
So what court ruled that it was allowable to record public officials with, make secret recordings of public officials?
No, the point was the lower court had said you can't, that Massachusetts, they can't carve out an exception for public officials.
Oh, so they upheld. Okay, so the lower court upheld the Massachusetts Wiretap Act, essentially.
Correct.
Okay,
and,
good.
Right, and the Supreme Court did not hear the bill, so because they didn't hear the bill, the lower court ruling still stands.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a net win for us, even though it also applies to the government officials. It applies to everybody. So, and we're against having recordings of anybody against their will.
Well, no, it's not against their will. It's that they know about it. So
Right.
There's like it's one thing I kind of like about the Massachusetts Wiretap Act is that, the requirement is informed consent. So if you don't like the fact that you're being recorded, well, then you can leave or just not engage with a person. This is one of the reasons, my understanding, is how we can get away with filming police officers or, that sort of thing. So I'm glad to see that the lower court's ruling was, they upheld our state statute.
Yeah, so I mean, the person who shares my name has a history of recording people in secret and then selectively revealing what they say in a way that is not charitable.
Highly
Or
edited
even
gotcha
accurate.
highly edited gotcha conversations. Is that a fair way to put it?
Basically, yeah. So, and if you don't know they're there, you can't record them. It's not fair,
Was this in any way connected to the potential theft of the Biden daughter's journal?
Yes, it was. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Okay.
Not related to that.
It's
This
the same
case was opened
organization.
like years ago.
Yeah.
That
But
is still ongoing, and we'll see if they serve jail time or whatever.
But it is the same organization.
Yes, that it is.
Which shall not be named.
I mean, hopefully they don't get you into trouble, Jamie. That'd be terrible.
Oh, they did that years ago. That's the thing when you have a domain name with that same name and suddenly people come out of the woodwork like, oh no, you did this awful thing. Like, I'm not that person, right? Can't you see from my website that I'm not that person?
You'd think
I feel
it would
sorry
be
for some people who get wrongly associated with someone else. Thankfully, no one tried to kill me. So, hey, that's a good thing.
That's why you got to get a totally unique, completely Googleable name, like Malt Schlitzman.
And that being said, thank you for joining us this evening. We appreciate all that you do. Definitely subscribe to our newsletter, information, and definitely join us in the chat and comments. It helps to feed the algorithm, and that helps us bring better content to you. Even though we all do this pro bono. This episode is sponsored by Jamie's sweater.
It's the best time to wear a striped sweater. Is all the time. One with a little turtle. None of you watch SpongeBob, really?
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Yeah, thankfully not. No.
It's not
Bye,
been the
folks.
same since Steven Hillenberger died. And on that note, goodbye for